However, there's a difference between being hurt and then obsessing over the act or the comment or the whatever happened that caused you to be upset. So you absolutely have control of how you react to those comments or thoughts. So there's a Warren Buffett quote. I don't really like Warren Buffett, but the quote, and let me see if I can find it, is good. I'm probably gonna botch it, but it's because I don't know it offhand. It's something like, if you have an emotional reaction every time somebody says something to you, then you let others control you or something like that, and then are controlled by the outside world. So that is not a good thing. So instead, you should always look at that thought and you're making me mad right now because this should be towards you. I'm glad you're on here because you should listen. So instead of ruminating in the negative of a thought, experience, something, you have the choice to simply say, do I want to get angry at this? No. Do I want this to take up space in my head? No. Whatever you think about grows. And here's a scientific fact. A memory turns into a memory it's a semi-memory in 24 hours. After 48 hours, it turns into a memory. Then after that, if you keep the negativity going, it just simply feeds the seeds of the negative tree. It's like weeds. They grow like weeds, the negative trees. And I showed an example of what a healthy tree looks like in the brain and what an unhealthy tree looks like. There's no in between. You're either thinking healthy thoughts and have a beautiful blossoming tree with lots of flowers and green and pollen and birds, or you have a black, wiry, dead tree. So, like I said, there's no in between. You're growing your thoughts either negatively or positively, and it's called your default thought network. So it's either you have a positive default thought network or you have a negative one. And this strategy that we're doing here, this activity or technique, whatever you want to call it, the purpose is to create a healthy default thinking pattern and rewire your neural networks and unwire out the toxic thoughts and memories. And this can be done. It doesn't matter who you are. You can do it in the same amount of time it takes to develop any habit, which is 3 cycles of 21 days, 3 different stages of a habit. So anybody, no matter what your past experience is, no matter what you've been through, no matter what your age is, you can absolutely grow your neural networks or your ugly, branchy, wiry trees into beautiful, blossoming trees. And this is how you do it. Now, when you overthink things and when you constantly choose to focus on the negative and let that thought ruminate and obsess over it and let it grow, you're actually causing brain damage. And there's brain scans and evidence to back that up. I can't show you right here, but if anybody has a question about it, I can produce the evidence. So that's why deep thinking is a healthy thing to do. And I think I discussed this before. It's called introspection. But when introspection goes wrong, it's very unhealthy, and it's done in a way that creates more damage, because then you're ruminating about negative things, and then you're growing it, and then you probably go to somebody for advice. And who do you go to? You have to be very, very picky and choosy who you go to. When you go to someone for advice, which is actually a good thing because it helps you with self-awareness. People can see things that you don't see and point it out to you. But if you go to people who are perpetuating the negative cycle, and you know who those people are, you have to have a list. We discussed this last night in our video that we did live. The woman, I forget her name, she was really good. She said she has a list of 3 people that she'll go to when she needs good advice. And then there's people that she will not go to, because you know what kind of advice you're gonna get. Are you getting? Do you just want to hear that you're right? Are you going to that? This also takes this process that we're doing, and I have to keep reminding every day. It takes being 100% honest with yourself, and practice being 100% honest with yourself at all times, because it can only help you. And if you're not honest with yourself during this process, you're not going to get very far. So if you need help being honest with in our frontal lobes, we can actually, I forget what it's called, but we could look outside of ourselves objectively and look at our situation as if we're somebody else. So we can, and this is what I explain it. There's so many names for it. The multiple perspective advantage or something, blah, 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 blah. But really, I explain it like, what would you tell your best friend who is going through this? Would you tell your best friend? Well, some people probably would tell their best friend that something negative. So maybe I just realized that example might not apply to everybody, but so back to the point of the multiple perspective advantage, you have the ability to look outside of yourself objectively and from different angles and view what the situation is. Could it be this possibility? Could it be that possibility? Does it have to be the negative possibility every single time? It can't be. There's something going on with you. If it is, it can't be everybody else. It's just not possible. So, and if you have an issue, if you are in doubt that you even have a negative default thought network, maybe these days people are so busy they don't have time to even think about their thoughts. They don't even have they're going from work to this to that, listening to music, going on social media, going on the television. They don't even have time to assess their thoughts. It's so important that you assess what's going on in your mind. Your mind is constantly going 24 hours a day, even when you're dreaming. That's your mind processing, trying to make sense of stuff. You're in your dreams, it's trying to process something. So even it's a good idea to really pay attention and analyze your dreams. But anyway, so I kind of went off the beaten path with that one. I was talking about being honest with yourself, and you have to know who to go to get advice that is going to help you and not further harm you. So if someone's always like, you're right, that person might be a people pleaser. I wouldn't go to that person all the time. And you could tell when somebody's just, and that's not a real friend, somebody who's just constantly, you're right. Then again, if you're not honest with yourself, you can be feeding them a load of BS, and then you're not going to get a correct assessment of the situation. So again, so 2 challenges. If you don't know whether you have a negative default thought network or positive, monitor every thought that goes into your mind for a week. Every time you have a negative thought, write it down. Write it down. I bet if you do have a negative default network, you're not going to want to do that for a week. It's going to be a lot of work. But so that's one. So monitor every thought and challenge it. 2, work on being 100% honest with yourself at all times. It is the only way you're going to be self-aware. And when you're self-aware, that's when you start to accept yourself for who you are. That's when you can regulate your emotions. That's when you develop self-esteem. That's when you start to just, did I say accept yourself? Because that's such a huge piece in the self-esteem puzzle that people don't understand, because they're so busy trying to be someone else, or try to please others with trying to be someone else, that they lose themselves. And that's when your self-esteem plummets. So, okay, step 1 is gather your thoughts. So what is the dominant negative emotion? Is it anger? Is it anger because you're angry at somebody who you feel took advantage of you? Well, nobody can take advantage of you because you are the one who allowed them, unless they put a gun to your head, right? So what was your role in that? That's when being honest with yourself really needs to come into the equation during step 2. So you have to analyze the situation and confront it and ask yourself, answer, respond, analyze. You're analyzing, because see if you're doing it right. Are you being honest with yourself? So you're angry because we did anger. David was interested in this subject. He's not here right now, but so the anger and what was he became very aware that he had a huge role in people taking advantage of him. And instead of turning the anger on others, he had to look within himself. But you can't be angry at yourself. You have to use that as an experience to grow. So what you do is step 3, then you write it down. So you write down, say, I'm David. I let these people walk all over me, and I was lonely, and I wanted friends, so I ignored my gut feeling because I was lonely. And here's a side note: loneliness kills. Loneliness will kill you quicker than any COVID or quicker than anything. It really literally kills people, loneliness. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. So David should not be hard on himself for doing that, because it's a horrible feeling to feel lonely. So in this situation, we're still doing step 2 and 3. That's how you be easy on yourself. You did David, you did the best that you could at the time with what you had. So, okay, now step 4 is you go back and you read what you wrote yesterday about your step 1 and 2. And you're looking for trends, you're looking for connections, you're looking to gain more awareness. And when you're writing, it opens the door from your conscious to your unconscious, where these are steps to go deeper into your unconscious, get deeper in there, deeper in the unconscious. So then you look for that. Now remember, people are triggers. Are people constantly reminding you of bad things that you did? Are people constantly putting you down? If somebody's treating you poorly, then you need to, we spoke about this, boundaries. Place boundaries on them. I will not let you speak to me like this. I will not let you do this, Or remove them from your life if they're that bad. Don't let people disrespect you, and if you do, then it's your fault. For at some point, don't mean that rudely, but at some point you have to take ownership of allowing it. I've done it. I've been there. I know. I've allowed it. I've allowed it a lot. So, people take advantage, and that it is my fault for letting it happen, not their fault for doing it, because I should have known better, but I, have my poor reasons. So that's a lesson for David and others to learn from. So this is step 5, the last step, the replacement thought. Now this thought is meant to unwire unwire out the negative thoughts and wire in the positive ones. So this is, I think, the most important one, and it needs to be done at least 7 times a day. So think of a replacement thought. Say, I don't know, everybody has their own issues, so it's going to be different for everybody. But as we're going to use David's example again, so his step 5 replacement thought to unwire the negative of lonely. I was lonely. I'm not a bad person. Well, he's angry. So I have to stay focused on the anger was his emotion. So now he's angry. I have to take so this is step 5. I have to take responsibility for my actions in the people who have taken advantage of me, and I have to let go of the anger and forgive them, because it's kind of human nature to take advantage of others if they allow it. And not everybody does it, but if you put yourself out there like that, so own it, forgive them, so you don't harbor any I'm not supposed to say any, that's just extremely toxic to have resentments, and you are just never going to break free of the anger if you have resentment. So forgiving them for being users and allowing them to use you. So that's easy. They can let them go use someone else. I don't know. But anyway, so then you program that in your phone 7 times, every hour, and every time you get a negative emotion, like anxiety, worry, anger, fear, you're going to remind yourself of that, because that root, anger, those other emotions that are manifesting, they're manifesting because of that root thought, and you don't even realize the derivatives that grow out of that root thought. And then once you address it, you will realize it when you're in 3 days. If you really take this process seriously, in about 3 days, those negative emotions throughout the day that you feel periodically, you won't have them. It's crazy, absolutely crazy how much this works. But then you got to push on. So, okay, have a good day.